Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of HazChat. I'm one of your co-hosts, Bob Koshignano, with my other co-host, Mr. Derek Shaman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning and hello, everybody.
This is a special one. This is the new year, so we're doing things a little different. We're adding a show. I know everybody's been excited, waiting to hear about it. So we're doing this bi-weekly now. So this type of show is kind of more of an interview style, which we'll get to our special guest in just a minute, right after something from our sponsors. Hey, HazChat listeners, looking to boost your skills? Check out respondertraining.com. They've got top-notch responder training and essential tools like their 1-inch propane and CNG flare-off kits, water injection tools, and much more. Train smart, stay safe, and excel in the field. That's respondertraining.com. Enhance your HazMat training with Signal, the most realistic gas detection training on the market. For under $100, you can simulate any detection combination from handheld meters to fixed location monitors, and even confined space scenarios with their universal pump attachment. Signal delivers unlimited range and detector combinations trusted by top teams around the world. Visit signalapp.com or download the app now. Signal, unlimited range, unlimited possibilities. And just like that, and movie magic, there's our special guest, our first one of the year, Mr. Kevin Ryan. Hello, sir. How are you? Besides
Good.
cold with white stuff all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. It's been quite a couple of days here. Actually, it's going to be probably cold through January, February, so might as well deal with it and get used to it.
Right? Yeah. The we got some cold stuff here. When I got up this morning, it was 35. I know everybody's
Hmm.
seen the pictures of the iguanas falling out of their trees. We don't have a lot of those up in the Central Florida area. However, if you hit Derek, down about Fort Lauderdale, Broward,
Yeah,
uh,
about Lauderdale, West
south,
Palm.
you'll start. The further south you go, especially when you get down the Keys, they're laid out all over the place. It's awesome, and you got to
Just
be careful because if you
just
grab
make
one,
them
it wakes
easier to
up.
catch and cook. Easier to catch and cook.
True, true.
So what's iguana meat taste like? Does it taste like
Chicken,
chicken?
Everything's
chicken.
chicken.
The
Everything tastes
standard
like chicken.
response.
I've come to
Every
the conclusion that I eat different chicken than most people because when people say that everything tastes like chicken, I'm like, that is not what chicken tastes like.
maybe it's just your COVID buds, your COVID taste buds.
COVID buns.
I
You
don't
got
know.
super buds.
I'd say it's all about the seasoning.
True, true.
Yeah.
Little Cajun, little blackened
Yeah, that's what
seasoning.
I was thinking. Little
Mhm.
Cajun and black pepper.
You know what would
Uh,
be good? Bang bang iguana.
ooh,
Oh,
A
wow.
nice spicy sriracha
ooh,
aioli. All right.
Uh,
ooh. All right, now
That's what we need. We need cooking with hazmat.
all right. And
Cooking with
ooh.
hazmat.
I have the exact hazmat chef that can do that for you.
Okay. Well, stay tuned, kids. There may be
Yes.
another new program coming out real soon.
Right. The
Uh
hazmat recipes.
the hazmat recipes. Damn it,
Recipes.
we're just this is how shit happens.
Hazmat cookbook.
Usually we come up with stuff at a bar when we've been drinking, but this is good. Kevin, before we go down too many other rabbit holes,
Right.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name's Kevin Ryan. I lead the hazmat team for the Baltimore City Fire Department. The hazmat team in Baltimore is comprised of 7 suppression companies along with the hazmat specialty units. One is a full-size hazmat equipped for chemical emergencies. And then we have a smaller utility pickup style that we use for oil responses. So everybody knows that probably 95% of your calls are oil related. So the smaller unit, the spill unit, gets the majority of the responses. And then the chemical unit comes into play when we go into level A or B operations. On shift each day in the special operations group in those 7 companies, we average anywhere from 15 to 25 hazmat technicians. So that's 15. That's probably 40 to 50% of the members in company. The rest are all operations level certified. Um, and that's actually one of the challenges that I've come across too is it's trying to convince these operations guys that even though they're defensive, they're still very valuable.
Right.
for that
Yes.
matter. So I think you've touched on that on one of your podcasts in the last couple of years or so, but you're just not a defensive guy anymore. And sometimes we don't have the staffing to do that. I think staffing's the biggest problem for us right now. I think it's a big problem everywhere for that. But we are fully equipped. We handle level A, level B. We do touch on some WMD, like suspicious letters. We will work directly with the bomb squad, especially at special events. That's one of our biggest challenges. Is any special event in Baltimore that's got a high SEER rating from Homeland Security will, have a hazmat component there, or more likely a CBRN component. Ravens, Orioles, Preakness are three of our biggest that we have to deal with. The last couple of years have been pretty exciting. We've established some pretty good relationships. Our FBI WMD coordinator, Frank Rigo, State Police Special Ops Bomb Squad / Rad Guys, Mark Klinger, Rodney Wayner, Travis Nelson. These guys have all been super, along with Lieutenant Klein and Jason from the bomb squad for the city. So we've established a pretty good working relationship with all of that. We are basically the hazmat team is basically a larger part of special operations, where we have the dive guys, the tech rescue, and the hazmat all function under one deputy chief.
Oh, good. So it's basically like a special ops deputy chief.
Yes. Yeah. And he's actually dual role. He's actually considered the fire marshal for the city. So he handles all of, or oversees all the permitting and the fire inspections, but he got that job when he was already given the special operations job, and we've got a good program going. And they've the current chief has left him with that assignment, and I'm glad he did, because we really do have a good program going, and the leadership that Chief Hudgens has provided has been absolutely essential. More so in the methods that he uses, because he's more of a hands-off kind of chief. He picks the guys that do the job, and then he lets them do the job.
That's
and
good.
He doesn't, right. And when he calls and you give him your opinion, he's most likely to follow it, because he knows we sit here and do this every day.
Mm-hmm. Man, it sounds like you got a home run right there.
It actually is. It's I got to say, it's one of the best times in my career. Because of the cooperation we're getting.
Right.
There's some other times that I've had good crews when I was working Truck 15. It was one of the really good times in my career, and I loved it there. We were a single truck house. The closest engine was 5 minutes away, and I learned so much about operating on the fire ground without water. And I think that kind of mentality actually moved over well to hazmat, where you have to look at the big picture the entire time.
Right.
So, but I can't complain. But the reality of it is what really makes special ops work in the BCFD is the drive the members have. All the members show up every day, and whatever you throw at them, they take care of. Sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes some of these companies are running 20 medic calls in a 24-hour shift. But we do the job, and we show up when the rest of the fire department asks us to.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing for us in special operations is we do things that suppression and EMS companies can't do. And it's very rare, but when they call us, we need to be ready and prepared for that.
Exactly. Especially with, just by nature, most fire and EMS personnel are problem solvers. They're people that they will find a solution. They will manufacture a way to solve a problem. So when they say, we're throwing our hands up, we've got to call out special ops, they've exhausted their capabilities on it. They've said, this is beyond what we can handle. We need to call someone else.
Right. And actually, I'm glad you made that reference, Derek, because one of the articles I wrote for HazMat HQ was just that, solving the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we have to be. We have to be detectives and solve the problem that comes across in front of us. And I can't remember what month that was. I should have referenced all that before I started. so I'm unprepared right now.
That's cool.
Well, you know what? Our viewers and listeners can search through all the back articles And if they come across some gems that they weren't necessarily looking for, then they can enjoy those too.
Right.
At hazmathq.com. Check them out.
Right, right. And it's funny too, because I think in that article, at least in some of the other writings or emails that I've sent, I really find that the simple things are actually what solves the problem. I've
Yeah.
solved more problems with duct tape and pH paper and trash bags than I ever have with an infrared device.
Right.
Yes.
It's crazy, but the reality of it is the simplicity is actually beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And you look like a genius when it happens.
Well,
I'm an average intelligence guy, but I've always focused on simplicity, because especially in a dynamic changing emergency response, you're going to get that. You're going to need that simplicity so that you can adjust on the fly. If the plan's too complex, then you're going to confuse your people and you're going to put yourself into a dead end, basically. So
100%.
I focus a lot on simplicity. And I've always told our members that, I'd rather give you 30 minutes of quality training than an hour and a half of unfocused and poor quality training.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how many times can you do an A kit? How many times can you put on a B kit? I mean,
right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Well, and when you said that, and you talk about that you handle most of it with some duct tape, papers, and trash bags, that brings back the importance of the simplicity of a lot of these things. Is we're really there because something is not in its container, and we need to put it into a different container or get it off of wherever it is. I'm a tool collector. Anytime I see a new tool when I'm walking through a hardware store or whatever, I pick something up. But when it really comes down to it, the tool that I usually need is a 10 millimeter socket, which I can't find. So you have to stock lots of those. But you get those tools because you're like, I have this project and I need this tool. So you learn how to use that tool. You buy that tool, you do it. It's the same thing with HazMat. We have the things we're going to use every single call. Mm-hmm. Trash bags, pH paper. Those are our 10 millimeter sockets, our flathead screwdrivers, our shovels, things like that. Those are our standard tools. The IR technologies and the mass spec, all those things, they have a purpose. They have a need, but I'm not running out and using my router on a regular basis. I have it when I need it, but most of the things I'm doing, a circular saw takes care of. So I'm glad that you point that out, because sometimes we put too much emphasis on those higher end things and forget about the fact that every call is going to start at the very basic, and then we scale up to those tools.
Right. And something that I get a little bit of a friendly abuse from a good friend of mine. I want to mention Jeff McCarthy from Squad 26, who a really good hazmatter, great bike team guy, paramedic, all around great guy. He always makes fun of me because I managed to put some EMS paradigm into some of the training. I did like 2 years as a paramedic, riding Medic 1 and Medic 3. And, that was some really informative times in my career, and I learned so much. But in reality, I was thinking about writing an article on this, about drawing parallels between EMS and HazMat. Mm-hmm. Because like if you look at an infrared device, well, if you think of an infrared device as a cardiac monitor, right? They always tell you, treat the patient, not the monitor. Mm-hmm. Right. And when you look at the infrared, just because the infrared says that it's going to be lewisite, then that doesn't mean it's actually lewisite.
Right.
Which actually we had that happen over the radio one time. Somebody mistakenly said the word, well, we got lewisite on the infrared. And I'm like, oh, wow. But it was a false positive. It really was. So
please don't ramp this up.
Right. So I'm just glad the news stations weren't listening, because they would have searched that and been all over it.
Oh yeah, that was one of two reasons that we did the in-suit communications, whether we were in a suit or not. But we had a different radio system, was so that nobody could eavesdrop, and actually more importantly, so the chiefs didn't jump in and run at the mouth when we were trying to run a call or do something, and we tried to You know, they always wanted to get involved. It's like, look, I'll sit right next to you in the car or whatever, and but just we're on our own channel for a reason.
Right, right. I like having us on our talk around channel that's
Yeah.
not in the digital system.
Right.
Um, and with that sensitivity factor, like, credit to one of our other guys. His name's Nick Green. He's the first acting man at 23 Engine, which is one of our longtime hazmat companies. We had a ricin scare, I think a year and a half ago, and he saw that. He picked up his phone and called from inside the hot zone to tell the incident commander. Right, but then when we got a look at the HazChem kit, the 50/50,
Right.
the protein check,
Yeah.
we saw that it was the latter. Actually, this was like a RAID 8 kit or something, and you could see that it was the test was all messed up, and it was one of those hook effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as soon as we saw that, we're like, okay, we can turn this down. This is a false positive.
Yeah.
For that. So, but sometimes, which sometimes we may not be able to undo that.
Right.
And with our special events, that's one of the things that we always focus on with our guys is that discretion's everything.
Yeah.
If you panic a 72,000 seat football stadium, you can't unpanic.
You can't unpanic it. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's led to some really interesting discussions because, like, what if something does happen? Are our guys going to go up into the crowd in level B suits or something and scare the crap out of everybody?
Right.
I would hope and expect not.
Right. I mean, it's a game time decision. And how do you deal with that? Because if you get up there and you realize that it's actually not something, well, you can't undo what you just did.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's funny you say that because that reminds me of the two guys, I think it was during the Ebola thing, the two guys in level A suits walking onto an airplane.
Oh, right.
What?
Yeah. When that went down, I got a phone call about 30 minutes after that to go down and meet with department representatives and Orange County Health Department to come up with a plan. And when I got there, I said, well, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
That is not in our plan. And some of the best advice I got when I first got promoted to chief was from an assistant chief that I respect. He said, there's two types of ways that you can handle command. You can take an incident and you can take it from here and you can make it bigger. He said, or you can take it from here and try to find out how to make it smaller.
Right.
He said, your goal should always be how to figure out, can I take this and make this a smaller thing? Does it really need to ramp up?
Right.
And that's how I look at everything, whether it was hazmat or fire or an MCI, anything like that. I look at it and go, okay, let's not overcomplicate this. What's the problem and how do we break that down? And that can be something as simple as that incident commander saying, hey, you know what? I trust my special ops people. I'm going to reduce that down by breaking it down into groups and letting hazmat do what they do. Let EMS do what they need to do. Let the suppression units do what they need to do. And then I'm not trying to manage all of it. So I think that's a good point there that you were saying, you can't undo it once you ramp it up. It becomes very difficult to reel that back in.
Yeah.
I always, because we are a fire service first and then a hazmat team, which unfortunately that's the way it is. It's what the mission of the city is for the fire department. But I always try to liken back to the experiences that these guys have, whether it's being on an engine or a truck or whatnot, because I can personally attribute that my time on a ladder truck, was always about the big picture. Right. It was, especially when you have a long block of row homes and you have 2 or 3 on fire, right? At that point, you put your ladders up, but at that point, you're looking to see how much is this going to extend.
Right.
Right. The engine guys are strictly focused on getting water on the fire. Right. And I always make fun of the engine guys, telling them they get tunnel vision. Right. But that's a whole nother fun thing I get into. So, but, it really does help you see the big picture. And I try to liken back to experiences, and, they've always talked about in the 8-step process where you start the playing field, get all the players and figure out where, and then start narrowing it down.
Right.
by starting broad with a hot or a cold zone and then move to a warm zone or hot zone, or you could probably either work from the hot zone out if you wanted, but in that fashion, you're basically setting up that playing field. And I know I've written about this here. That is actually the most important thing that leads to success at a hazmat incident. If you set the stage, you set the playing field right from the start, you will be successful.
Yes.
Because right off the bat, you've established who's in charge, where we play at, where do we not play at without PPE. And there's so many things that people understand when you set those parameters for them. Basically, it's like you're setting boundaries.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what we talk about when we do our HazMat Ops review classes, and that's for the first due arriving units. Setting the stage, setting the building blocks for what will hopefully be a successful outcome and not a disaster. And it starts with the first due, whether it's the engine, truck, whomever that shows up, until the hazmat team arrives on scene. And then, like Derek says, makes it bigger, makes it smaller based on the information that they've gathered from the first due unit. So, yeah, building blocks.
In my experience too, is if you're the first in suppression company, you really don't want to make things big.
Right.
Right.
That's just human nature of our job. We want to solve the problem and go home.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and I hope they don't hesitate to call hazmat when that happens, but if they can handle it, then let them handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we tried to.
And the key that you had there was solve the problem.
Right. Solve the problem.
Right. Then head home.
Right.
Solve, then head home. Not
head home.
How do I get home as the priority, and then not truly solve the problem. That's the important clue.
Yeah, because Derek and I both have had instances where, we don't want to call hazmat because we're going to be here forever. And when we were both lieutenants in hazmat, we tried to educate everybody. It's like, look, if I can let you go, and I'll stay on scene because they're paying me that extra, $650, $750 a year, woohoo! Then that's what we'll do. If I can't let you go, sorry about your luck. You're there for 24 hours working on shift anyway. So, anyhow.
No, and don't get me wrong. As we've made our mistakes in the BCFD hazmat, but we've always managed to learn from them.
Oh, we all do.
And I think that's actually more important is recognize the little mistakes before they become the big one.
Exactly.
Anybody's ever heard Billy Goldfeeder talk, don't line the Swiss cheese up?
Right.
Is what he always said. Because you make a small mistake on this one and you get away with it. The next call, you do it again. The next call, you do it again. And then eventually the holes line up and the big mistake happens.
Yeah.
So,
and that's our company's motto, which I know it's when you're through learning, you're through. And I would ask the guys on the rig, give me the good, the bad, and ugly, even with me. I mean, I'm not perfect. Don't tell my wife I said that, but I'm not perfect.
Right.
Shit. So we all make mistakes.
The reality is if you've never made a mistake, you've been lucky. And like you said, I'd rather have those low acuity mistakes that you learn from than being lucky and not having it. And then when it really comes down to it, you have nothing to fall back on with the experience of those small mistakes when something really does go wrong.
Right. Yeah. And you talked about being lucky versus being good. It's really interesting because hazmat was able to put on a 2-in-1 training, which covers the entire fire department at the fire academy. And that's one of the very first question I ask when we talk about natural gas leak responses is, are we lucky or are we good? And you want to know the only person who thought we were good at it was me. I have that faith, but everybody else, not a single other person answered, we are good at it. But you want to know the other kicker of it is they won't change what they do.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. They know that we get lucky a lot. And why won't you change that if you know that's the case?
Yeah.
Because the discussion will ensue, and then I'll ask everybody, well, what can we do to change it? And then everybody it's basically the same answers. don't park so close to the building. Make sure you're wearing PPE. Have your meter up and running.
Right.
Make sure you have your resources, or you get all the standard answers. But the reality of it is the mentality has to change.
Right.
Yep.
And that may be the best thing for the fire service. It may be the worst thing for the fire service. Is the culture itself. You can pick up any podcast and they'll talk about culture.
Right.
So it's not really worth diving into here, but I think that's our best friend, but it's our own worst enemy.
Well, we definitely need to change the culture. We need to, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and go on a tangent, but I've seen a lot of places or a lot of people that are doing trainings that the training is, while some of it's great, they almost act as if they're in some kind of special warfare unit, like a SEAL team, whatever,
right?
And trying to beat people down and stuff like that. And in my opinion, you don't learn that way. People get discouraged. I get no problem with doing hard training. Don't get me wrong, but make it a learning event.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest issue. Don't beat somebody down because look at me. Beat them up, bring them up, so to speak, by, hey, this is why we're doing this. And there's a culture, you see it in the fire service, of some of the training that different people do, and it's like, geez, you're not in the SEALs, like teach them something. I get you're going to do something hard, and with HazMat, Derek and I especially have tried to do that. Is I don't need to put you in a suit till you run out of air. I don't need to have you do something 50 gazillion times telling you did it wrong when really you were doing it right, just so you got to do it more. Like, he and I were never about that. We were about, let's do good quality training so people learn. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. And any good program is also going to differentiate between training and assessment, because you do have times that you need to do a competency assessment where it's not, hey, this is not a training session. This is not a learning. This is a you demonstrating, you doing, and you performing.
Right.
Sometimes we turn training into assessments, or vice versa. We turn assessments into training.
Yeah.
Any good program has a definition of when you're doing one versus the other. And with using those two tools, that's how you're going to have the success in your program. Is we trained it, and then our assessment validated is the training working. And I think that is that's where everything's going to have to go, because the reality is we're losing a lot of experience. We're not necessarily losing knowledge. We have a lot of smart people coming into the fire service that can go to trainings and they can absorb information, and they process things differently than us. We got people coming into the fire service with 4-year degrees when before they were coming in with high school educations. And they're able to understand some of these concepts more, but what they don't have is the experience. They didn't run these calls. And as those things have kind of changed, finding that balance between the knowledge and the experience, that's that training and then the assessment tool. You have to have both of them to balance it out.
Yep.
Right. And speaking of training and drills that matter, I got to say, there was one drill that I did in a level A suit that was put on at the Delaware HazMat weekend, probably way back in like 2014. There's a retired DuPont experimental station chief named Daryl Mead. If anybody knows Daryl Mead, they will know he is one of the sharpest guys out there, but he's also very hands-on practical. And basically, you zip yourself up in the level A suit, you put a meter inside of it with you, and then you take your air, go off air. All right. I actually was breathing 14% oxygen.
Yeah.
And that is an experience that I will never forget, because you have to manage at that point. You physically have to manage your breath, anything that you say, and anything else like that. And I will say, if you undertake this training, this is IDLH training. So please make sure you take all the appropriate steps if you do that.
Right.
But just once, I would like every firefighter to feel that, or hazmat tech, because I have so much more confidence since I've done that drill.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just amazing what it was actually very meaningful. And I got to credit Daryl for that.
Good
and,
point.
It's also funny. You guys are mentioning rabbit holes. I think you've both said it so far in this podcast. Do you have the April edition on your brain of
The
the
April.
magazine? Yeah,
Yes,
Oh,
hazmat rabbit holes.
yeah, I
Hazmat
did.
rabbit holes. That's right. Yeah.
I tried to intentionally do it around Easter to see if it got any attention.
I do remember that. Again,
Right.
kids, go to hazmathq.com and check out. Kevin wrote multiple articles for us. So there's still a lot of good information out there. And we'll probably start publishing that here eventually again. But yeah, good stuff.
Right. And my email address is at the end of every one of those articles. If you have questions, if you want to reach out, if you just want to
Perfect.
share something with me, please do. I have a list of like almost 300 people. I can get information out, and it really opens new pathways for me personally, but also for everybody involved. And like recently, for anybody that's is on my email list, there was a thing came up about LNG ships are now coming into the port of Baltimore as car carriers.
Right.
Well, Ryan Henry over in Louisiana had a specialist at one of the largest LNG ports on the Gulf Coast, and he got me in touch with him, and I was able to forward all that information out.
Perfect.
You're not going to learn these things, you know, just by doing research. He gave practical tips of what to look for. It wasn't just, well, the LNG boils at this temperature. It just wasn't book stuff. It was hands-on. This is what you want to look for.
Right, right. And we're
Right.
gonna just a second, we're gonna show the websites for people to join to a lot of the hazmat groups that um, share information. The hazmat group 2 that I help run, we actually just hit over 10,000 members, so that was pretty huge for us. That was exciting.
I might have to re-up my Facebook actually, because I did several years as chief in my home company. So I got rid of actually all of my social media so I could have plausible deniability.
It's not a bad thing sometimes. Trust
Well,
me.
I had an early experience with one of our station chat groups, and I'm like, you just can't get involved in this. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you just need to get away from all this.
Yep.
It was almost a potentially bad experience even before I took office. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, this is better off not.
You got to balance it. There's the good and the bad, and
Right.
hazmat group 2 is the good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It really is.
It's a
The
good
hazmat
one.
group 2 has been really good.
Yep,
For the time that I was seeing all of that. So
still there, still rocking and rolling.
right.
Well,
Plus,
Kevin,
you got
thank
good
you.
administrators.
There's a few of us, and it's not
Right.
just me, that's for sure. It's a big animal to oversee sometimes. But
Right.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us on this first interview session. As I said, we're going to be doing 2 shows a month. One of them will be an interview type setting like you see here. So thank you, my friend, for taking the time with us. We really appreciate it. And we will definitely be seeing you in Baltimore in just a few months.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the privilege, guys. It's always great to share.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank
Stay
you.
warm and stay safe, man.
Thank you.
So before we hit the road, kids, let's go over a few things. We want to remind everybody about the social media from HazMat 101 Consultants. You can catch all the HazChat videos because you can watch this. If you're just listening, please make sure to go to our YouTube channel so you can watch some of the episodes, have different discussions where we have video pictures and things that we talk about. And then also on the websites that we mentioned, there's, as I just said, the HazMat 101 Consultants YouTube page, the HazMat Guys Roundtable, the first Tuesday of every month, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can also find that on YouTube. HazMat Group 2, HazMat Group, and Common Sense HazMat, all great places to get information. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Ask a question. So, Derek, anything before we leave?
No, like I was saying to Kevin, everyone stay warm out there. Don't know when you're going to be watching this, but right now it is 36 degrees in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do.
Yeah. They'll be watching. Well, I don't know when they will be watching it, but it will be dropping next week, the week of the 14th of January. So, thank you all once again for tuning in, and please remember to like and share and subscribe, pass it around to your friends. And as you see on the little spinning cube up there, we're on all the platforms. So Not only watch us while you're sitting at home, but when you're driving down the road, take a listen. Until next time, we'll see you later.